Welcome to Christian Guys Radio. Radio for, well, the Christian guy. Let's jump right in. Well, it is time for yet another edition of the Christian Guys podcast, radio show, whatever you want to call us. We're just thrilled that you're here. We don't really care what you call us, just don't call us late for dinner.
Absolutely.
So, listen, we want to talk to you today about something that's a little more practical than maybe some of the ones that we've been dealing with here in the last few shows. And no, I'm kidding. Anyway, I want to talk specifically today about career choices, jobs. And for me, my job, what I would say my primary job is I'm a preacher. I'm a pastor, and so I love what my job is. I feel like I was called to this position. I feel like this is something that God laid on my heart, spoke to my heart, said, this is what I have for your life, and so I followed. Now, that doesn't mean that this is the only thing I know how to do or have done or have chosen to do in all of my working life, my working past. I have been... let's see if I can think of some of them. My very first job was at McDonald's, flipping burgers. Absolutely loved that job. I have worked for Burger King. I've worked for Arby's. I have worked for Hardee's. I have worked for Mr. Good Sense, if you're familiar with that sandwich chain, kind of a competitor to Subway. Everybody sort of Subway. I have worked as a car rental agent. I have worked as a computer tech in an architect's firm. I have worked as an IT professional in a oil rigging and oil company equipment job. I have worked as a financial advisor. I have worked as an inventory clerk. I have worked in several telemarketing jobs in banking and cell phone industry. I have owned several businesses, including a computer company where back in the .com days, building and repairing computers. I have also in that same window, we owned a cell phone company. I was a T-Mobile dealer back when T-Mobile first came to the United States. Sold their cell phones and service. I have worked for T-Mobile in their call center. I have done all kinds of jobs here, there, and yon. But
maybe the list of the ones you haven't done would be shorter.
Let's see. I have worked as a janitor. My family owned a janitorial service all growing up, so I've done janitorial service. I have delivered food. I've been an Uber driver. So all of that to support what I do as what I call my career, and that is being a pastor, supporting my family. I have been a stay-at-home dad, so that's a job all by itself. Don't get any pay for it, but it's a job. So all of that to say, today I want to talk about jobs. I want to talk about, so we're talking to the young man who's looking at career choices. Maybe he's a senior this year, and this has been absolutely the year from where because of all this coronavirus stuff, or maybe it's a college senior who he's got his degree and he's been thinking about what path, but maybe his degree is in, liberal arts, or it's in something that maybe he's now thinking his degree is not where he wants to go career wise. What led you? So this is our question to ponder for the day. What led you to the career choice that you have now? And what would you change it to if you could just pick up and is this where you want to be? If it is, what led you there? How did you get there? What did it take? Some details, some specifics. If it's not the career that you thought you would be in, and you still have other career aspirations, what are they? What are you doing to try to get there? And age really isn't a factor here. I'm in my mid 40s, and I'm even playing with the idea of going and getting yet another. No, I say yet another. I don't even have one, but getting some education in a different field than what I have been in the past. And so that's what I want to spend some time talking about today. So Caleb, let's start with you since you are the baby of the group. And
Way.
wow. But you know, is this the job that I know what your job is because we work all, as we established in a previous episode, we all work at the same day job. Is this what you wanted to do? Is this the career path that you thought you would be on? Is this what you want to be on long term? Talk to us about your career goals, aspirations, desires, wants, fantasies.
Well, I guess kind of start off, I think about 6 years ago, I was working for a company that we would clean the hoods over grills in restaurants and fast food chains. If you ever worked in fast food chain, you know exactly what I'm talking about and how filthy those things can get. I mean, it was a good job, but it was only for the summer. And once the summer was coming to an end, I, kind of scrambled. I was like, okay, I need something now. And at the time, JCPenney was available, and they took me right on. They needed help, especially in the warehouse part of it, where you would take the clothing and other items and take it off the truck, organize it, and then put it out on the floor and try to keep it as clean as possible. And I did that for about 3 years, and it was approaching the time. Well, at least it felt like it was getting close to the time of Black Friday and Thanksgiving, and anyone who's ever worked in retail during that time of the year knows how crazy it can get. And in my mind, I knew it's like I don't think I can handle another Black Friday.
Didn't want to get trampled again.
Oh no, the people, I don't know, I don't know if it's a full moon during that time of year or what, but I started looking around. I applied for Convoy Hope. I also applied for Ozark Food Harvest because they needed people that work in warehousing, and just to kind of clarify, I actually like that type of work. To kind of be in the background. It might not seem like a very important job, but you realize, all these, whether it be stores or volunteer organizations, they need a lot of supplies to do what they do, either be it food or medical supplies, or in the case of a job I have now, supplies in that for churches and things of that nature. I was like, okay, I want to, kind of just put my resume out there, see what I get. And it was Assemblies of God, the national headquarters in Springfield, Missouri, that actually called me back, wanted to have an interview with me. And even though I had never worked for them before, I'm not even associated with the Assembly of God Church, they were fascinated. It's like, wait, you want to work for us and you never really did, this position that we're offering before, but you did something similar to it. Good, And then next thing you know, I was hired for them and been there for last 2 years now. And I do feel that I have been led there, kind of in hindsight, that I could see where God said, okay, I want you to be in this position. It might seem tough and you might not understand, why it's so difficult, but then I got something else that would be more to your liking and more to your speed. I guess, one of the unique things about my job now that I have that I really enjoy is that even though I do work at a desk, I still get to move around. I still either, it's moving inventory around or just, moving in
You're
general.
not just sitting all day.
Right. But yeah.
So is that where you see yourself kind of a more long term, or is there something you're aiming towards?
Well, kind of going back to what I was saying about how God led me, it's not that I feel like, God's gonna, just take me out of this position right now. It's like, well, he could, yes, but at the same time, there's usually promptings or something
Sure.
else where that, God said, okay, I'm going to close this door here, but I'm going to open this window here so you can kind of be spurred into that direction. And I also understand, it's like, okay, I have to do God's will first in my life. Even if I might not understand it, I might say, well, God, I liked this spot or this position in life, but understanding is like this next one would be even more beneficial for me.
Right. So, I mean, so is warehouse and mailing and shipping, is that your career aspiration, or do you have career goals? Do you have, like, I really want to be a doctor, lawyer, dentist, I want to be a trophy husband,
How did
Scratch
you
that
know?
off my list.
When you said scratch that off your list, the immediate thought was you would be the Billy Bass of trophy husbands. You know what that is? It's the little
Not a
the
good-
fake fish that hangs on the wall, and
Oh, yeah.
you turn him on, and somebody walks by him, and he
Then
leans
unless
out
somebody-
and sings a song.
That
and-
somebody considers Buddha to be a trophy.
There you go.
I'm roughly that shape.
You could rub your tummy for good luck. So do you have? I mean, every kid has a when I grow up I want to be a insert career choice.
Well, the funny thing was, and we were talking about this off air about, goals or dreams that we had when we were kids. My dream as a kid was to be a truck driver. That something that really fascinated me, something about being on the open road and, just taking, one item from point A to B. And,
Well, I come from a family of truck drivers as well. My dad, my grandfather. Matter of fact, the day I was born, the very first gift I was ever given was a semi-truck, because I am the eldest grandson with my grandfather's last name. So I have older cousins who are guys, but they all are from my grandfather's daughters, so they have different last names. I was the oldest grandson to carry on the family name. So my gift was a semi-truck from my grandfather. And so very much that in the background. And Prime here in Springfield will train you to be a truck driver. They will pay you for training and then put you out on the road. So literally you could walk in tomorrow, go, I want to drive. They would hire, and they're hiring. They don't hire anybody, but you're a good guy, clean background, clean driving record, blah, blah, blah. You would be a shoo-in. And truck drivers, and they make good money. They can, if you're willing to do the work.
well, you mentioned Prime. I also, OTC, whenever I was going to college,
Right.
they have a CDL program. It's like, oh yeah, you just pay this flat fee. We'll train you, give you your license, and go.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's always kind of been in
So
the back of my mind.
It's within reach. You know, you get yourself, and then you could drive for convoy.
Right.
And so he's still doing, can do ministry stuff, but there's several Samaritan's Purse. There's I'm sure Baptists all have their own thing, and then you could go back to your own people. No, I'm kidding. We give Caleb a hard time. All three of us come from a different spiritual background, or so, and so we just like to give Caleb a hard time for being Baptist. We love him nonetheless. So. All right, so truck driver, anything else? I mean, is that something where you're going, okay, when the door opens, I'm getting on the road, kind of a thing? And, oh, you really ought to watch, there's an old TV series, and you can find some of them on YouTube, that would give you some really great training. It's called BJ and the Bear, and would give you some great insight on what being an over-the-road truck driver is like.
Well,
Wait.
Things not to do.
Better question. Do you have the lingo down? Do you know what 10-4 and breaker, and do you know how to use a CB and all of that stuff?
I tell you the truth, I don't know what happened to it, but my grandfather had a CB. He had a handle, and he wasn't a truck driver per se.
I'm not going to tell you what mine is, but I have one as well.
But he would drive.
Now I'm curious.
He would drive a Oats bus, and he would talk.
Oh, yep.
He would talk to like truck drivers and other.
What was your grandfather's name?
His handle or
no, his name.
His name, Eugene Burleson.
How long ago did you drive the Oats bus?
Oh gosh,
We may be finding out something here on air today, guys. It's interesting.
let me think. Okay,
How many years back?
He passed away in '98, and
Okay, never mind. Not the same person.
no.
My mother-in-law rode the Oats bus all the time, and she had a guy, and I think his name was Gene. Matter of fact, I know it was his name. Her Oats bus driver's name was Gene, and she absolutely loved him. He was so sweet and kind, and I thought, maybe there's another connection we didn't know about. But this would have been in the it'd have been in the early 2000s.
Oh no!
So he'd already been passed by then, unfortunately. But yeah, so. Interesting interesting that came up like that. But anyway, you were saying something.
Yeah, he had a CB, and he would talk to other Oats drivers and truck drivers, right. And he would have the lingo at breaker 19. This is.
Do you know what that means?
Not clearly.
Break is the universal code for, hey, I need in. I've got. Generally, it's supposed to be used for an emergency, so they use it in songs and stuff. So it's kind of become a colloquial thing. Mm-hmm. But break generally means I need in. I know you're talking. I really need to talk. And 19, which is channel 19, was an emergency channel. Mm-hmm. Channel 9 was usually the emergency, but anyway. So they would go break, and then whatever the channel number was. So they were on 19, and that's just saying, hey, I know you two are talking, but I really need somebody who can help. I need some help. And that's kind of anyway, so that's an aside. Yes, I'm old enough to know what that stuff is. This is a fun conversation.
Also, another good show, good movie series, Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, yeah. Smokey and the that BJ and the Bears from the same time frame. The reason I suggest BJ and the Bear for you is it was a single guy who drove a truck, and his riding partner was Bear. It was a monkey, chimpanzee, and the chimpanzee always got BJ in trouble.
No, I won't ride with you.
Actually, doubles can make even more money.
I've heard that.
So you go get your license. You two leave what you're doing now. Go ride. You both be rich, especially being single.
And then I guess, also what kind of helped this, idea of becoming a truck driver. My best friend, who I grew up with from grade school all the way through college, his grandfather was a truck driver, and he lived just a couple of houses down from me.
Right.
And he would deliver bass boats.
Oh, nice.
And he would mainly deliver them to Canada. I guess there was a big demand.
That was his run.
That was his run all the time.
Typically, you, as a driver, unless you're doing what's called LTL, which is less than load, you generally have a route you drive. So, you know, one week it may be that, or I mean, depending on who you're driving for, you may, you know, every week it's Springfield to Canada and you're delivering boats, and it's for your run is for a specific company, and that's all you do. And you drive that route every week. Other, you know, I know we have a truck driver gentleman in our church that he drives one week he drives from here to Texas. The next he drives from here to California and back. And then it's down to Texas, back to California, down to and that he just repeats that over and over again. But you generally have some kind of route that you drive. Like I said, unless you have what's called LTL, less than load, then those are the ones where you might drive from here to Pennsylvania to pick up a skid full of widgets, and then from Pennsylvania on the road, the widgets have got to go to Louisiana, and you stop off in Kentucky to pick up a load of gizmos, and the gizmos have to go to Texas, and so then you stop in Louisiana to drop the widgets, and then you go to Texas to drop the gizmos, and somewhere else in there you pick up and drop off, and so you're just kind of all over the place.
And then also to add that too, there was actually a few trucking-based video games that they had.
Oh yeah.
One was called Route 66.
Oh yeah.
And especially in arcades where, you know, they had the full
Right. Yep. I had to get in the seat.
They had, you know, the big wheel, they had the shifter, and they had the radio. And in the game, you could call on the radio for other truckers, and they would get in front of you, and you would like streamline
Right.
them,
Draft.
and you get a
Yep.
boost.
Yep.
And what was the other one? There was another one called Big Mother Truckers.
Yes, I've played that game many times.
Oh my gosh, I played that thing for hours and hours. And like the point was to make enough money to buy. I think it was like your mother's company from her.
Right.
While
Right.
you had to compete against your siblings.
Yep.
So it was always trying to get the best deal for a load, and then trying to sell it at the highest price possible, and while also trying to fight off like bikers who would try to steal your
Right.
load, and
Right.
cops from pulling you over.
And chroming out your entire rig.
Yeah,
That's right.
And you could like upgrade your truck, and I thought what was really cool, it had like a cockpit view of the truck, and there was like a radio to it as
Right.
well, and
Right.
and it would have like different stations. It had like, you know, the redneck country and
versus old rock,
and
classic rock, Skinner.
Skinner,
Yeah. Yeah, buddy.
talk shows they had on there, and
No talk shows.
no talk shows.
No talk shows. Maybe talk radio a little bit, but no talk shows. That puts you
Have
to
some
sleep.
rush bow.
All right. Well, we learned something new about Caleb today. That's awesome. Matter of fact, that puts you up a few notches now, Caleb. You come from, like I said, I come from a truck driving family, and so you don't get much more, we'll say hick, than a Mexican truck driving family. So we are
With relatives in Arkansas.
I have relatives in Arkansas. I have relatives in California. We live right here in Missouri, in the middle of the country, and so, yeah. Well, interesting to know. We're thrilled to get to know that a little bit about you, Caleb. All right, David, what tell us a little bit about your career past and career desires. I know right now you're working in high finance, working with large sums of money and cash, and
Yeah, not so much.
yeah. Well, hey, listen, I wanted to give you a little boost, try to make it look sound a little more glamorous.
Say,
than
do you want the boring version or the really boring version?
the David version.
I've done a little bit of this and that, not quite as extensive as your background and resume, but I've done. It's about the only thing that I haven't done is fast food, and that wasn't because I had any disdain for it. It just never. I just never did.
I spent too
But-
much money while I worked in fast food. Oh, I worked at Radio Shack too.
I haven't done that, but I've done janitorial stuff. I've done groundskeeping, mowing the lawn, that kind of stuff. Just kind of odd jobs here and there. But I went to Bible college, so I do have a BA in the Bible field. I did my internship in that particular field. My intention was to become like a Christian counselor, not necessarily a therapist, but just a general counselor. And after I finished my BA, that just kind of, I got to working just to pay the bills and stuff, and that kind of went by the wayside. And I don't know, in the long run, I kind of see how that probably wouldn't have worked for me, just because of what you have to do to get started in the field and all that stuff. So, but I don't know. I guess growing up, if I had to pick something, I grew up in the Top Gun era, and so the whole flying jets was appealing. Although I never did anything with it. It was. I'm still fascinated by aviation in general, but I'm not a pilot or anything like that. And
if you don't mind me asking, any particular era in aviation?
I tend to prefer the more modern stuff, although there is a little bit of a sweet spot for certain World War II era, the P-51 Mustang, the F-4 Corsair. Those are fascinating to me. The P-38 Lightning, those the faster, more maneuverable prop planes. More modern stuff, of course, and I'm sure in large part because of I'm a fan of the movie Top Gun. Is the F-14 Tomcat has kind of a certain appeal to me, but just understanding the technology and the aerodynamics and the technicalities of why certain airplanes do what they do. I listen.
How like they were made for like a specific purpose.
Right. Like there's a podcast. It wasn't specifically about aviation, but it told a story of a guy that I forget his name, but he was an Air Force fighter pilot, but he also self-taught himself a lot of higher math. And so he was able to influence airplane design. The armed forces were moving in a specific direction. They were starting to build a lot of multi-purpose aircraft. And he kind of said, this isn't going to work. Not just because I fly them and it doesn't work, but here's the math as to why it doesn't work. And these are the things we need to be building into our planes, not one multi-role, but several different ones to do specific things. And he actually, over the course of several decades, was able to kind of guide specifically the Air Force in certain directions to make our aircraft be the top of the line in terms of the world. I mean, we own the skies basically everywhere. And that kind of thing fascinates me, the history, the mechanics, the math, all of that stuff is just fascinating, but it's just not something I ever actually physically got into. But it's still fascinating to me. In terms of my current job, I kind of sort of fell into it. I mean, that's how most things happen in my life, I guess. I came back from doing my internship and I just needed a job, and I ended up in a job that was in a related field to, it was a ministry office, a satellite office. And I just kind of bounced around from one satellite office to another. Right now I'm not an accountant, but I'm an accountant. I'm just a clerk. I work in an accounting office. And I mean, I'm happy with what I do. I love the people that I work with, and if I could do anything, I don't know what I would do, but I enjoy what I do, and it pays the bills.
And I would say, no matter what position we find ourselves in, whether it was one we fell into or one, we felt like we were called to it. I think, the biggest challenge is to be content wherever that or whatever that position might be, and understand that some might be for a season, others might be for decades, but just to kind of add to that.
Yeah, and I mean that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't consider, particularly when they're in a job. Like I'm sure there are other jobs that I could take that maybe would gain me more on the monetary sense, but there are certain, I don't know how you want to put it, non-tangible benefits that I receive from my job, whether it's we're mostly a Monday to Friday thing, and so I don't typically have to work weekends so that I can do stuff here at the church, and other activities. There's certain holidays that we get off because we are a religious organization. There's certain things that I don't have to deal with at work. So whether it's, drunk coworkers or, just stuff like that. And not that my workplace is immune to all of that, but by and large, there's those things that I don't have to deal with because of the environment that I'm in. And so that just overall, it makes my life easier, if you will. It's one less thing that I have to worry about.
I can see that. And it's those fringe benefits sometimes that are worth more than just the pay.
Yeah.
I mean, the pay is good, especially when you have longevity at a job. So maybe you don't get, maybe it's not the best paying job ever, but it's enough that, like you said, it pays the bills. It gives you a little bit of money to live your life. But in addition to that, you don't deal with drunk coworkers. You don't deal with generally inappropriate stories by a fellow coworker. You don't deal with some of the moral dilemmas that other companies do.
Drug use,
Yes.
having to deal with, the police coming in and raiding your office because your coworker was, doing X, Y, or Z on the
Right.
weekend. And again, not that any one
Well, and
place
given
is
your physique, you don't have to deal with, in a secular world, women hitting on you all the time because
yeah.
of their religious
Sure.
background.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen regardless, unless they really are into the Buddha shape.
Well, I listed my careers. I listed the different areas of my life things that I have done in my life, and yes, I have had lots and lots of jobs. There used to be a term we used to use called a jack of all trades and a master of none. About the only area that I have not worked or had any real career experience is the trades. So carpentry, plumbing, masonry, those kinds of things.
Mechanics,
Yeah. I mean, I know how to do little bits of things, not much, and generally not even enough to do anything with. But I've done a few things here and there. But we definitely, I have been in retail. I have done door-to-door sales. I was for most of you, you're not going to know what this is. I have been a Kirby vacuum cleaner salesman.
Bet you that job sucked.
It absolutely sucked. It sucked the best out of any vacuum on the market. And so, it's one of those things where, you look at all of the different aspects of careers that I have had. What is crazy is the fact that none of those are the career. And this is where I ultimately was getting with this episode. And we'll kind of wrap it with this. None of the jobs that we've shared that we're in now, or most of them that we've ever had, are the career that we thought we would when we were in high school.
Yeah.
We had plans, we had ideas, we had things that we wanted to do. and life has twists and turns. You don't ever really know. You make your plans, absolutely. You go to college, or you go to trade school, and you get the background, so you have something. But the reality is life's going to throw you all kinds of twists and turns and ups and downs, and you may not end up in the area or the career that you thought you would. For me, I'm in a career that God called me to, that I feel this is where the Lord led. For you guys, you are in jobs that either the Lord led you to or the Lord opened doors to, whatever it may be, but that's kind of where you ended up. And so for our guys that are listening, the fact is you have your plans, you have your ideas, but you don't really know where God's going to lead you. And it's okay. It's okay to, but always be pursuing, what God's calling you to. Always be pursuing. I don't even want to say always pursue your dreams, because sometimes those dreams aren't always reality. Lovely to have a dream of being a fighter pilot, but at 40 something years old, and myself and you both X percentage overweight, that's not happening.
Not going to happen.
I mean, you and I both are past the enlistment age.
Well, even at the age where I could have, there were some physical limitations due to, it was genetic things. That just.
Well, for me, eyesight. I was going to join. I wanted at one time to join the Coast Guard. I was too heavy at the time. Eyesight was an issue. Different things like that. There used to be a thing with being your mother's only son, and that, so lots of things like that go into that.
As you were talking, it also brought something to mind. Something that I was thinking about a few days ago, and it wasn't in this context specifically, but I think it still has an application. I was listening on my phone to a specific version of the Bible, and I happened to be listening to the book of James, and I think it's in chapter 4, and it's something that I think we in general in the church have stopped doing, I think, and I'm guilty of it, so I'm not judging anybody else. I'm kind of lumping myself in the same thing. The apostle was saying about how we say, I will go to this city and do this for this amount of time, and I will do this, and I'm making plans. And really what we should be saying is the Lord willing.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's a perspective, regardless of what we're doing or what we wanted to do or what we might do in the future, kind of taking the time to step back, and regardless of what plans we make, of saying, the Lord willing, because the Lord can change our plans. Maybe this isn't where I intended to be or hoped to be, but it is in God's will. It
Right.
hasn't escaped his plan and purpose. And I think when we acknowledge that and we verbalize the Lord willing, I think that brings God into the situation.
And kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about being content in, any situation or position we might be in, it is, letting God's will be done in your life. That if God says, okay, I need you here, will you obey, or will you say, well, I have this position I strived for all this time? No, we strive, as Paul put it in 2 Corinthians, about how we strive for things unseen, because no man strives for things seen.
True.
Well, I think if we can get ourselves to understand, that Henry Blackaby has a thing in his Bible study called Experiencing God. And it was profound when I went through it the first time, because a lot of people pray, Lord, help me do this, help me do that, send me here, send me there, blah, 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 all these things, when really, and it goes along with what you just said, really it should be, Lord, show me where you're working and help me get there. Help me see where you're working and help me join you in what you're already doing. And so we don't know what God has planned for our lives. And that even extends into our career choices. So, some of you may plan to go into law enforcement, or some of you may plan to go into the medical field, or, into the trades. That's all wonderful. And God can call you to those places just as easily as he can call you into ministry or missionary service or whatever. But ultimately, be okay with being flexible enough to be where God needs you, rather than just being hard and fast that this is my career, this is my plan, or this is what my parents have told me that I need to be. So, again, hopefully you're not going to be as diverse a job background as I have, and whatnot, but that's just kind of where, God led me, and the things that I felt like I needed to do when I needed to do them. So again, we want to say thanks for joining us. Share some of your thoughts and ideas. What are some jobs that you've already had? Maybe you're a little bit older and you're a Christian guy who's been around the block a little bit, and so maybe you've served in what are some unusual jobs that you've had? Maybe something that's been a little bit different. Or what are your career paths? What are your career dreams? Who knows? Maybe maybe you'll post those in the comments, and somebody will have an in or a connection to seeing that dream come to a reality. Again, we want to say thank you for being with us and joining us each and every episode. We pray the Lord's blessing over you. And again, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Well, hey guys, before we get out of here, I wanted to say one more quick thing. We appreciate you listening on behalf of Caleb and David and myself. I want to say thanks for joining us every episode, and wanted to mention just a couple quick things for you. Number one, did you know that if you like the episodes, did you know that you can actually sponsor our episodes? You can go to anchor.fm/Christian Guys, all one word, and you can click the support this cast, and maybe it's $1, $5, $10, I don't know, maybe something, but you can go there and help us keep up the equipment and the time that it takes to get all of these put together. Hope they're a blessing to you. Also, do you know that you can be part of the show? We want to give you an opportunity to speak into the show. So if you have a question, it can be on anything. There is not a topic that we won't talk about. And so if you have a question that you'd like to ask, grab your smartphone, click on the voice memo, and record your question. Shoot us an email at podcast@christianguys.org. Shoot us that email with that attachment. We'll actually drop your audio right into the show, and then we'll answer your question, and you get to be part of the show. So we would love for you to do that. Hope you're looking forward to being part of it, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.